Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome to a new Grand Prix in 2019, the 2019 French Grand Prix, round 8 of the 2019 World Championship. Great to be back for another Grand Prix weekend after Canada, which was so exciting and just so fantastic in what happened during that weekend. Great to be back, and also great to have every single one of you along again for another weekend in 2019. Hopefully you guys, no matter where you're on the world, having a very good Friday. For me, I'm having a very good Friday afternoon. But yeah, hopefully you're having a good day, no matter where you're on the world. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to practice too and seeing, who does have the pace around Paul Ricard. This track definitely will offer a lot more of a different order, I think, compared to Canada. I think Canada was more so track specific. I think at this track, it will be a bit different and a bit more representative of the pecking order when it comes to aerodynamic balance, because at this track you do need to have a good car when it comes to aerodynamics and just sheer speed in the corners, compared to Canada where you do need top end speed. But of course we have had a practice session already today, and let me now take you through the results in case you do not know what they are. So in practice 1, it was a Mercedes 1-2. Lewis Hamilton fastest from Valtteri Bottas, and Charles Leclerc was third. Max Verstappen was P4. Vettel was P5. Home driver Pierre Gasly was P6. Lando Norris was 7th, and then it was Sainz 8th, Ricciardo 9th, and Albon 10th. And then outside the top 10, Perez, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Kvyat, Magnussen, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Latifi, Kubica, and Grosjean. When it comes to Grosjean, I'll get on to why he ended up only doing 9 laps and why he ended up at the back of that session later on when we get into Haas in just a moment. But yeah, there you go. Those are the results of practice 1. But now let's get into the teams and preview how I think they should be this weekend in terms of speed, and also talk a bit about some stories to do with some of them coming into this practice session. So let's first go to Mercedes. Of course, in Canada, they were going head-to-head with Ferrari, and it was a very tough weekend for them. But coming to this Grand Prix, I think they will have the best car. I just think that this track suits the Mercedes car too much compared to the Red Bull and the Ferrari. The Red Bull and Ferrari, as we'll get onto in a moment, are good in certain parts of the track, but the thing with the Mercedes is it's good in all parts of this track, and that's why I think they will have the best car. I think they will be, say, at worst, a quarter of a second clear of the next car, but it should be probably half a second. I think they are going to be very comfortable this weekend. If Ferrari are sandbagging today, maybe that can produce a surprise tomorrow. But realistically, I think Mercedes are absolutely the team to beat. I just don't see how they won't have the best car. They have a good enough car for this type of circuit. And I think it will definitely be for the race win and for pole and for the, topping the timesheet today. I think it is between Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas for Mercedes. But now let's go on to Ferrari. First off, let's get into the pace of the car before I go into a couple other topics. So the Ferrari car, pace-wise, this weekend, I think will be faster than the Red Bull. On race day, we'll have to see if it is faster than the Red Bull, because I expect Max Verstappen to be very quick on race day for Red Bull. But again, Ferrari, as I just said, they'll be quick at certain parts of the track, like the middle sector. But in the first and third sector, I don't think they have a good enough car to be right there, topping the timesheets or be on pole position. I just don't think the car is quite quick enough. Ferrari, though, have brought a new front wing to this Grand Prix, and in practice 1, early on, they were comparing the new front wing to the old front wing. So hopefully they have learnt, the differences, and hopefully the new front wing is a step forward, and maybe that will limit some of the time they are losing in the corners. But yeah, in terms of pace, I think Ferrari will be firmly, when it comes to 1 lap pace, second fastest. But there's 2 topics we need to talk about with Ferrari. One is the penalty decision from Canada has been appealed, and the stewards for this Grand Prix will hear that appeal I think they're actually hearing it right now from Ferrari. I'll look on Twitter as we get to practice 2 as to if there's any decision when it comes to that. But a Ferrari claim to have overwhelming new evidence that can absolve Sebastian Vettel of blame when it comes to that penalty, and it could remove Vettel's penalty from the Canadian Grand Prix. Now, even though, in my opinion, Sebastian Vettel did not deserve a penalty, I honestly think Ferrari should just move on. You know, I've moved on, plenty of people have moved on. I just don't see what's the point in continuing this this controversy by appealing and then, you know, bringing new evidence, which I don't think they can really bring any new evidence that is going to alter the decision. To be honest, I think the evidence that the stewards had in Canada to look at that incident was enough, in my opinion, to say whether it was a penalty or not. For me, it wasn't a penalty, so I don't see how Ferrari can win this this appeal. Hopefully, to be honest, they don't win it, because I think if Ferrari do win this appeal, it will make it even more of a farce, the actual incident. Even though I do disagree with Vettel's penalty, it will make it even more of a farce, and it also will set a bad precedent going forward, because if a steward's decision happens in the future that costs someone a race win or a podium, now, if Ferrari do win this appeal, then another team could try the same thing, and it could again set a bad precedent of, you know, you can do this and still get it overturned and stuff like that. So, to be honest, I'm hoping it's not overturned, because I just want to move on from that incident in Canada, and I think most people have, but clearly Ferrari have not. But yeah, that decision, it should be coming through sometime later today. I don't know exactly when, but we should hear sometime today in terms of whether the stewards accept Ferrari's evidence or, you know, dismiss it. We'll hear something, I'm sure, today when it comes to that. Also, I just want to say congratulations to Sebastian Vettel, because Sebastian Vettel has got married in between the last Grand Prix and this Grand Prix. So congratulations to Sebastian Vettel and his wife, who I believe is called Hannah. Congratulations to them. And yeah, I'm sure you guys will echo that in the chat. But I think now we'll move on from Ferrari and go on to Red Bull Racing. Now, this race track will be, I think, better for Red Bull. I think this track suits the Red Bull car better than Canada. And I think Red Bull, in qualifying or in terms of one lap speed, I don't think they'll be too bad compared to Ferrari. But I think race day is when you need to look out for Red Bull, because I think on race day Red Bull will have a quick car that can definitely, with Max Verstappen, go for the podium. But good news for Red Bull, they have a new upgraded Honda power unit, and also Toro Rosso do, but I'll get on to Toro Rosso later on and the consequences for one of their drivers that are using one of the new power units. But yeah, a new upgraded power unit for Honda, not for Honda, for Red Bull from Honda. So that's good news for them. Hopefully that can put them a bit closer than they were in terms of sheer power in Canada to Ferrari and Mercedes and even Renault, because Renault were better in terms of outright power in Canada than Honda were. So hopefully it can improve the situation there, but I'm not expecting a ton more power from Honda. It will be an improvement, but it won't be anything massive, I think. But I just want to say, hopefully Pierre Gasly at his home race can start to prove me wrong. Of course, I did make that video, which has, I think, courted some controversy last Thursday, where I talked about why Pierre Gasly should be dropped from Red Bull. Hopefully, starting with his home race, he can start to prove me wrong, but I don't think he will. But hopefully, he can. But let's now go into the midfield teams. Renault, of course, their home race, and they are bringing some good upgrades to this Grand Prix, aerodynamic upgrades, one big one to the front wing for them, and also Daniel Ricciardo has a new ICE for this Grand Prix. Hulkenberg does not have one because they don't want Hulkenberg, of course, at Renault's home race to have a grid penalty, so they're going to put Hulkenberg on a new ICE that Ricciardo's currently using for the next race in Austria. So I think Hülkenberg will take a penalty for Austria. But yeah, Renault, they should be in the top 10 this weekend, at worst with one car, but it really should be with both cars. In practice too, we'll see where they are compared to teams like McLaren, Toro Rosso, and maybe a Haas, who I think will be right in there. It's going to be still a tough battle for them, even if they have improved their speed compared to a couple races ago, you know, at a similar track, because this track is not really similar to Canada. This track is a lot more similar to the Circuit de Catalunya, and of course, at that circuit, they weren't that great. They had probably the 7th best car, so Renault, if they have made a step forward, it still won't be easy, but they should be definitely getting in that top 10, and hopefully for them in their battle with McLaren in the Constructors, they can this weekend try and get that P4 in the Constructors. Next up, McLaren. McLaren in practice 1 looked pretty good. P7 and P8, and McLaren this season have looked pretty good. And I think this weekend that's not really going to be any different. I don't think McLaren will be necessarily as consistently competitive as they were in Canada, but they will still be in and around that top 10. Maybe they can get both cars into the top 10 if both drivers really pull out good laps today and also in qualifying tomorrow. But I think McLaren will have a good car. I don't know yet if they will have the best car in the midfield. I think today will prove whether McLaren can have that, you know, the best car in the midfield. Yeah, McLaren looking good, and I think they are in for a good weekend. And also next week in Austria, I think will be another good weekend for McLaren also. Next up is Alfa Romeo. Alfa, I think, will be quite bad this weekend, because in Canada, where they should have been more competitive, and they were more competitive than they were in Spain and Monaco, but not massively. They weren't that good, of course, in Canada, and I think this weekend in France, they're not really going to do anything. I think they will have the slowest car in the midfield, because right now, the Alfa Romeo is, well, it's poor. It's a poor car. It has no real aerodynamic grip. Yes, they do have the power, but you need a lot more than just power to be good in that midfield scrap, and I don't think Alfa really have the grip to compete. Hopefully, they prove me wrong, but I think they will have the worst car in the midfield this weekend, and might be slightly at times cut adrift from the rest of the midfield, we'll have to see. Next up is Haas. Pace-wise, Haas should be better at this track than Canada, because I think this type of track does suit their car better than a track like the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. The Haas should be better and shouldn't be as terrible as they were in Canada, but again, as I've said so many times, they're so inconsistent, we just don't know how they actually are going to be. In practice 1, they didn't look that great. By the way, Romain Grosjean ended up at the back because he had a water leak during the session and couldn't get back out again. So hopefully that issue is fixed for him going into practice 2. At his home Grand Prix, of course. Yeah, with Haas, I don't really know. I think they have the potential to finish anywhere in the midfield. They could be back there with Alfa Romeo, or they could be at the front of the midfield with McLaren and Renault. We honestly don't know. And we'll have to see. We'll have to see how they do. But I think with Haas, don't have any expectations when it comes to Haas, because we honestly don't know what they are going to do half the time. Next up is Toro Rosso, and as I said with Red Bull earlier on, they have a new power unit, new upgraded power unit for both drivers, Alexander Albon and Danny Kvyat. But Danny Kvyat, because I believe he has had too many engine parts, he is taking a penalty for this race and will start the 2019 French Grand Prix on Sunday at the very back of the grid. So practice for him is basically all about the race. In terms of qualifying, there's nothing really Kvyat should really focus on when it comes to that, because again, he can't start any higher than at the back of the grid. And I think if Toro Rosso with Kvyat can really, focus a lot or mostly on race pace and they can get a good balance for their car, that could help Kvyat and also Albon out for race day, considering they'll have, say, more data when it comes to race pace and the race simulations at the end of the session or during the session in practice too. So yeah, Kvyat, he'll be starting at the back. Albon, I think Albon will be competitive this weekend, because I think if you compare it to, say, Canada, you have to remember Canada, Albon never raced around Canada until the Canadian Grand Prix of 2 weeks ago. And when it comes to this race, he has raced here before. So I think he will be more competitive, and I expect Alexander Albon to be, say, between P10 and P12. I think he will be definitely in that area. And I think when it comes to later on in the weekend, especially on race day, I expect Alexander Albon to be finishing in the points. But yeah, I think Toro Rosso, in terms of pace with their car, I think they'll have a good car this weekend. I think they'll be a bit more competitive than they were in Canada. Not massively, but a bit more than they were in Canada. And the final team in the midfield, of course, is Racing Point. Racing Point, to me now, look as though they are ahead now of Alfa Romeo, which is a good thing compared to previous races where they were definitely behind Alfa Romeo. But for Racing Point, yeah, kind of like Alfa, they're just kind of cut adrift from other teams in the midfield, and I don't think Racing Point, when it comes to getting in the top 10, are going to be that competitive. I think Racing Point, the best they can hope for in terms of one lap pace is probably a P14, P15 kind of area. I think that's realistic. Anything better than that would be honestly great for them. But yeah, Racing Point, again, kind of like Alfa, they're not really at it at the moment. Of course, Lance Stroll did score points the last race, not last weekend, at the last race, which was great, but they did qualify low down, and the pace of the car still isn't, right where they want it to be. So Racing Point will be all right, but nothing special. And then finally is Williams, who of course are going to be at the very back. By the way, just want to note, Nicholas Latifi was in the car this morning instead of George Russell, and Latifi was faster than Robert Kubica. I will leave it at that. But guys, that is it for previewing the teams coming into practice 2, and with 12 minutes to go until practice 2 gets underway, as you can see on the screen. Right now in the live chat, let me know what you think is going to happen for the top teams in practice. Where do you think the top teams and also the midfield teams are going to be? Do you think Mercedes will have the best car? Do you think Ferrari can challenge them in the midfield? Who do you think will be good and not so good? And also let me know what you think about the whole Ferrari appeal decision when it comes to appealing that penalty of Sebastian Vettel in Canada. Let me know what you think about that, and I'll read out a couple comments if I can before we get into practice 2 to do with that, as currently I'm watching Sky F1, who are currently stood outside the FIA stewards office, as I believe the meeting is still going on between Ferrari representatives and I think Sebastian Vettel and the stewards right now. So yeah, let me know in the chat what you think, and I'll get to reading your comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as this channel this weekend is the only place you can catch watch-alongs for the French Grand Prix qualifying and race this weekend on this website. So don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my homepage and subscribe and hit the notification bell as well. And don't forget to smash this video with a like. But I'll quickly take a drink and then I'll get to reading some of your comments for the next 10 minutes as we get into practice 2. Right, so let me switch picture. There you go, to Valtteri Bottas. So let's see what you guys have to say when it comes to, the penalty situation, and also the situation when it comes to the teams this weekend and who we think will be competitive and not so competitive. Let me take a look. Great to see, by the way, already 120 people currently viewing. Great to see that. Right, let me start reading some comments. So Sura Prawn, I think it is, says Renault best of the rest. I'm hoping with their new package and it being their home race, this needs to kick off their season. I think Canada kind of would be the kickoff of their season, to be honest. But yeah, if they can be competitive here again like they were in Canada, then it would be great. As Laurent McKees, the head of the sporting side of Ferrari, is now coming out of the steward's office. So it appears the meeting has finished. So I'm sure we'll hear something very, very soon. Duke Gaming says, Chaz, you are the best. Thank you very much. Right, let me find some other comments. Ash Shavin 301 says Ferrari should have won 2 races. If they were never in with a shot, then I would be more worried. Yeah, Ferrari should have won 2 races this season. Leclerc, of course, was the absolute deserving winner in Bahrain, but had it took away because of his power unit failing. And then Vettel, for me, in my opinion, unfairly got a penalty in Canada. Right, let me find some more. Prussia says Ferrari and Red Bull will not win a single race in 2019. I disagree with that. I'll be honest, I don't think Ferrari will win a race this season, even though I think Ferrari at certain tracks will be very competitive. For example, in a week's time in Austria, I think Ferrari are going to have a very, very quick car. Also at Silverstone, kind of at Spa, Monza for sure, and also tracks like Brazil. But Red Bull, I think by the end of the season, will be very close to Mercedes, because I think Red Bull, as we see every season, as the season goes on, Red Bull get more and more competitive. That's just the way Red Bull are. And I think by the time we get to, say, Mexico, I think by that time of the season, Red Bull would have either gone for a race win and just missed out, or they would have won a race by then. And I think probably they will win in Mexico, because I think Red Bull will be a lot more competitive compared to Mercedes than they are right now. And I think you have to remember that Red Bull, compared to the start of the season, I think in terms of aerodynamic grip, are probably a quarter of a second closer than they were in the first 4 races. So Red Bull are improving, not, you know, very, very quickly, but they are improving, and they will do so over the course of the season. And by the way, the reason I don't think Ferrari win a race is because they always find a way to screw up. I mean, how many times in the last 2 years have we said Ferrari should or could win a race, and they haven't done so? And I think if Ferrari do win, it'll be at a track where we don't think they're going to win. It might be this weekend where we're not expecting them to win. It might be at Hungary or Hockenheim. It really could be. That's the thing with Ferrari. They'll win when you least expect it, because they perform better, I think, with lesser expectations. Let me find a few more comments from you guys. Kurt Borman says, how's it, Chaz? It's going good. Hopefully it's going good for you. Says, what do Ferrari have to fight for, because the constructors is out of reach and Vettel has admitted the championship, or the drivers championship, has gone as well. For me, both the drivers and constructors were gone after Baku. Baku was the nail in the coffin of their championship bid. They're not competing for a world championship this year. No way. The best Ferrari can hope for is that Valtteri Bottas has a very poor end to the season and one of their drivers can claim P2 in the drivers, and Ferrari finish P2 in the constructors. That's the only thing Ferrari can do this season. That's the only thing they can do. Now, of course, for Ferrari, that is not considered a success. So I think if Ferrari can win a race, say before the summer break, then that would be ideal for them, because then they can say, well, we won a race. Yes, we didn't start the season well, but at least we won a Grand Prix and we showed that, you know, we can have a quick enough car at certain tracks. But now let's start full work on the 2020 Ferrari, and I think they should start that probably around the summer break, because for Ferrari, if they don't win, then it's a failure. So, and they're not going to win this year. So, what's the point in continuing development of this car when it's not going to win them a world championship? Well, I'll move on to a picture here of Max Verstappen, who spun earlier in practice 1. By the way, I'll get the running order up very soon. Pedro Goldfinger says Red Bull win equals Verstappen win. No way Gasly is ever faster. Yeah. When I say Red Bull win, I mean Max Verstappen win. Pierre Gasly will absolutely not win a race this season. There is absolutely no chance of that happening. No chance at all. Warren Colton says or asks, hard question to ask, right? But where do you think Red Bull are standing compared to last year, as they won a few races last year with Renault and owned Monaco, but this year not so? Have they gone back? I think if you compare it to last year, they have gone backwards, but not massively. I think you have to remember that Mercedes have really, with the new 2019 regulations, have really took a big step forward, because Mercedes had not took that step forward, then it would be a lot more competitive at the top with Ferrari and of course with Red Bull. And I think that's kind of playing a factor so far for those two, Ferrari and Red Bull, is that Mercedes, with their aerodynamic package compared to 2017 and 2018, have took a massive step forward, because Mercedes, even when they were dominant in 2014, 15 and 16, they weren't known for having an absolutely amazing car when it came to aerodynamics and chassis. It mostly came from the power unit. But now that they don't have the best power unit on the grid anymore, now that it's the Ferrari, now they have the best aerodynamic package. So it's I think that's why Red Bull are looking worse than they were last year. I think Red Bull at the start of the season weren't too great, I'll be honest. I thought they'd be a bit more competitive at the start of the season, but I think, yeah, they have took a step back, but I don't think it's a massive one. I don't think they're too far away from where they were last year. I think once we get to Silverstone in, 3 weeks time, I think once we get to Silverstone, you should start to see another progression from Red Bull. I think Red Bull, by the end of the season, will be back to where they were at the end of 2018. Maybe not just as fast, but kind of, around that area of speed. I think Red Bull are going in the right direction, more so, I think, than Ferrari. As long as Honda can improve their power output, then I think Red Bull are heading in the right direction, because the aerodynamic and chassis balance is there for Red Bull to be competitive in the top 2 or 3, but they just don't have anywhere near as much power as Mercedes and Ferrari to compete seriously at that point of the grid. JB, do you think Gasly can get up to the podium this season? I don't think he will. I think the only way that'll happen is if we have a race like we had in Austria in 2018, where we have unusually more retirements than we usually get. I think that's the only way he gets on a podium. But we are now 1 minute away from the start of practice 2. So I'll get the all the graphics ready. I'll get rid of the timer now, because of course we are moments away. I'll quickly replace the text here. But yeah, FP2 about to start in just a moment. I'll make sure to sync up the time in just a moment. Just bear with me, guys. And I'll get the running order as well booted up in just a moment. I'll actually get it on the screen now. By the way, the running order here, this is the running order from Canada. I haven't updated it since, so that's why it's in that order. Just want to let you guys know about that. Yeah, practice 2 is about to get underway. And you can see there what's his name? Jerome Stoll of Renault talking with Christian Horner, which is interesting. But yeah, practice 2 is getting underway very soon, and we aren't actually seeing if it has got underway yet, which is annoying. Yeah, it should be underway about now. And yep, it is now underway. Actually, I'll hide the timer because annoyingly they didn't show it in time, so I could have it absolutely synced up. So I'll pull up the timer in just a moment. But yeah, practice 2 is now underway. We have, of course, an hour and a half to go in practice 2, as a Toro Rosso is now coming out onto circuit. And it is... I always get confused with the Toro Rosso drivers. Their helmets to me look the same. It's Danny Kvyat. And that is probably for him trying to get race simulations, in the bag. But I think now I'll pull up the timer. Right now. Yep, there you go. It's now perfectly synced up. So, yep, an hour and 29 to go in practice 2. So, let's see what happens in this practice session. Who shows the speed, who doesn't? As Kvyat slowly touring around on the soft compound tyres. By the way, I just want to give you guys an update in terms of the weather. There will not be any rain this weekend. I've looked at the weather. It's going to be one of the hottest weekends of the season. It's going to be between 25 and 27 degrees Celsius in the afternoon at Le Castellet in France at the Paul Ricard circuit, with full sunshine today, tomorrow and Sunday. And I think because of that, and because of the high track temperature that we will get in the afternoon, right now, tomorrow and Sunday, that will make the tyres situation very interesting, because as we know, with the current tyres in Formula 1, they are very sensitive to temperature. If it's hotter than it should be for these tyres, then they will want to go on the harder compound of tyres. So I think the soft compound is really going to be a bad tyre to be on for race day. And I do expect it to wear out a lot in the race simulations later on, as Danny Kvyat is slowly touring round. But I'll quickly get up a different picture for you guys, as we're currently waiting for some real action here in practice 2. Let me quickly find one if I can. As Valtteri Bottas, as usual, drinking a cup of coffee. And yeah, I've got one of Valtteri Bottas from earlier on, as Renault, I believe now, are putting I think the new front wing on the Renault. I think they are, as Romain Grosjean, the home driver, one of the home drivers, now comes out onto track on I think the hard compound tyre. So yeah, Grosjean now on circuit. Yeah, only Kvyat and Grosjean on circuit right now. A very slow start to practice 2 here. And here is Valtteri Bottas. Let me just adjust the picture. And you can see there his front tyres from earlier on the soft compound. Look how much they're wearing out. And the drivers, by the way, were actually complaining a lot this morning about the track being too hot. And that was this morning. So imagine what it's like this afternoon. And it does look very, very hot. So this is not good conditions for, say, the engines, the brakes. Braking is important here, more so than other tracks on the calendar. But yeah, Grosjean now warming up his tyres. And let me just look at some comments whilst we wait for some proper lap times and cars on track. Geordie says Ferrari ate their soft tyres in just 2 laps this morning. Yeah, the soft tyres were really poor. And you can see on your screen from Valtteri Bottas earlier on as Antonio Giovinazzi has come out on track. But yeah, the soft tyres this morning were so bad in terms of wear. And you can see Bottas's tyres there. That was after like a 2-lap run. So tyre wear is going to be vital this weekend. As Romain Grosjean now starts his first flying lap in practice 2. Comes down into turn 1. Haas car not looking too bad. Bit skittish on the exit curb there. As and Kimi Räikkönen now comes out to track as Grosjean on the hard compound tyre now swings through first few corners. Danny Kvyat has set the first lap time so far at 35.6. Grosjean so far about half a second down, but Kvyat was on the soft compound compared to Grosjean, who is currently on the hard compound tyre. Grosjean looking up massively the outside front and going wide. So this lap is already a disaster for Romain Grosjean. As he now comes up to the end of the Mistral Straight. Here's a replay of Grosjean. And I think may have been slightly distracted by Kvyat pulling off to the inside. But I think Kvyat did it early enough. Here we go, so Kvyat pulls off. Yeah, I think Kvyat pulled off early enough. I don't think that really should be a distracting factor, but the Haas car was really bumping a lot down into the braking zone of the chicane on the Mistral Straight. So I don't think the Toro Rosso distracted him, but Grosjean now finishing that lap. I think starting a new lap because, yeah, that lap was quite a poor one as Daniel Ricciardo is now on track. And so is the Williams of George Russell. Yeah, Grosjean, by the way, locking up there again on the hard compound tyre. I'll quickly, if I can, post a picture of when we went green as Grosjean coming across a Williams there. And on a lap right now, we do have Antonio Giovinazzi and now Kimi Räikkönen. So both Alfa Romeos are now on a lap. We just don't know how they're doing at the moment. But here you go. That's when we went green earlier on. As Grosjean continues to tour around. And we've also now got the two McLarens on track. Norris and Sainz. And also Lance Stroll and Robert Kubica. So we're getting some cars on track now. Kvyat and Grosjean have set a lap time. Not very competitive though, those lap times. And also... oh, now Antonio Giovinazzi sets his first lap time of practice 2 and he goes second, about 3.5 tenths of a second behind Danny Kvyat. As the other half of Kevin Magnussen now comes out to track. As Kimi Räikkönen should be, as Grosjean takes to the new pit lane entry. By the way, guys, there is a new pit lane entry for this season. Which is good to see because the old one on the entry and exit was way too dangerous, I think, for Formula 1 racing. And here is again a replay of Grosjean locking up. Jordi says, personally, the new pit lane is quite dumb. Well, it's better than it was last year. Last year, it was dangerous. So, it is better than it was. And that's all you can really ask for, I think. Yeah, we should be seeing plenty more lap times in just a moment as we got, I think Kimi Räikkönen has gone fastest as Kimi Räikkönen, 4 tenths faster than Danny Kvyat. Kvyat also improved his lap time by about 8 tenths of a second compared to his first one, as Lando Norris starts his first lap time on the hard compound tyre. Also Daniel Ricciardo, George Russell and Carlos Sainz are on a lap time, so is now Lance Stroll. And very soon will be Robert Kubica and Kevin Magnussen. By the way, the running order running along the bottom of your screen is not the current order because we haven't had enough lap times for me to actually do a proper order for what's going on right now in practice 2. So once everyone completes a lap, I will update it to what it actually is. And then, of course, we'll move on from there. But as Lando Norris completes or is continuing his lap as Daniel Ricciardo goes 3rd, I'll quickly have a drink again to keep my throat, of course, under control, and then we'll get back at it. As Norris is now coming in, by the way, to the final part of the lap. By the way, Caldini, yes, there are new updates for the Renault. The main ones is a new ICE for Daniel Ricciardo on the power unit and a new front wing for both drivers as well. As Lando Norris now comes through the final corner on the hard compound tyres and goes fastest by about 0.2 of a second from Kimi Raikkonen. So good there from Lando Norris. Very good. Very quick early on as Carlos Sainz goes P5. As we're currently seeing a piece here on, I believe, a new update for the McLaren in Canada on the McLaren wing mirror. It's small, but I'm sure it does make a difference. As here is Sebastian Vettel on an outlap. By the way, the reason Vettel is on the medium compound tyre, but Sebastian Vettel, when it comes to the medium compound tyre, the reason a lot of people are either using the soft or the hard right now is because they want to save that medium for the race, because in the race, when it's very hot, that medium tyre will come in very, very handy. So that's why you're seeing a lot of soft and hard runners. Yes, Vettel is on the mediums, but I don't expect the mediums to do that many runs in practice or qualifying, to be honest. As Kevin Magnussen now goes fastest. By the way, again, because I saw someone in the chat just saying Russell nicely in 16th. Again, that's not the current live order. That's the order from Canada. I'm waiting for everyone to complete a lap time, and then I'll update the order to what it actually is. As Sebastian Vettel there passed Charles Leclerc, as Leclerc is on his outlap. As here comes Vettel through the chicane on the straight and now comes to the end of the Mistral Straight. The middle sector is, of course, where the Ferrari performs at its best, because it's all about power, basically. As Kimi Raikkonen now goes fastest. And let me quickly get a picture on screen for you guys of Romain Grosjean's lockup, because it was, as you can see there, quite a big one. I'll leave that on screen for a few minutes. As Vettel has now backed off his lap. I don't know why, but he's now backed off his first lap time. So I think he came across some traffic. I think a Williams of Robert Kubica was what he came across. By the way, as you can see in the grandstands are kind of very, very empty at practice today in France. Not really a surprise, because of course it's a working day. But yeah, it does show you the lack of interest in Formula One in the country of France compared to how it used to be, say in the 90s or even the early 2000s. But there you go. As yeah, we're currently seeing Martin Brundle currently looking at the cars from trackside. So annoyingly, we're not seeing the lap times. As Daniel Ricciardo has now gone fastest. We have now, how many times on the board? 13, about to have 14 times on the board. As we've now got Hülkenberg, Albon, Gasly and Bottas on outlaps. Verstappen and Hamilton are still in the pit lane. As Charles Leclerc now exits the Mistral chicane. And now, as Lando Norris now goes fastest again on a 33.2, I think that is. Almost 4 tenths faster than Ricciardo. Nice there for Lando. as Leclerc now is in the final part of the lap. And he now comes up to the final 2 corners. He is Leclerc, by the way, on, I believe, the hard compound tyre. Yes, he is. And here comes Charles Leclerc. And apparently he's on the medium instead. Here he comes to the line, and Charles Leclerc does go fastest. Only by a tenth of a second, though, from Lando Norris. And I think Norris is on a harder compound of tyres, so that's very impressive for Lando. Here's a replay of Vettel going into the chicane, losing the rear end in the middle of the chicane. That's, of course, not what you want. Yep, got the rear kind of spun around there. Then here's Vettel coming across traffic. It's a Williams. He waves at the Williams and then passes also a Racing Point car. Mark Greenhouse says or asks, any update on the Ferrari meeting? Isn't the review 14:15? Well, that was 14:15 French time. The meeting has already finished. I haven't heard anything as of yet, but I will make sure to, on Twitter, have a look and update you guys if there is any news to that. But now we've got Nico Hülkenberg about to finish his first lap time of practice 2. Here he comes to the line and goes probably 3rd. No, goes 6th on a 34.2. So the only people yet to set a lap time are the 2 Red Bulls, 2 Mercedes, and Alexander Albon. As I think Bottas, Verstappen, Gasly, Albon are now on a lap time. And Lewis Hamilton, I think, is on an outlap. Yes, that is the case. As Sebastian Vettel now does a first proper lap time of practice 2. Comes to the final corner. Exits that final corner. Now opens the DRS. And Sebastian Vettel, I think, is going to go into P1. And yes, he does. By 0.4 of a second on the medium compound tyre. Vettel and Leclerc on the medium compound tyre. So yeah, good there for Ferrari. Let's see what the 2 Red Bulls, as Gasly goes 6th on the medium compound tyre and Albon now goes up to 8th. Let's see what the 2 Mercedes cars and the Red Bull of Max Verstappen can do. As Antonio Giovinazzi goes up to P5. And we're just awaiting now Bottas, Verstappen and Hamilton to complete their first lap time of the session. And then, once that happens, I'll update the order. Sergio Perez pops up to P8 on the hard compound tyre. And we're currently watching the McLaren of Carlos Sainz on another lap on the soft compound as Max Verstappen goes P5 behind Ricciardo and Norris, interestingly. As Sainz on the soft compound now comes up to the final corner. Swings it through the final corner. And now we'll open the DRS. And where will Carlos Sainz go? This should be a good lap time for him. It is. Is it? Well, it's okay. P7, a 33.9. Definitely could be better though. As Valtteri Bottas has now done a lap time, but it's in the 2 minutes range. So clearly that was just another warm-up lap on the medium. As Charles Leclerc further improves his time. And I think now I'll basically start updating the order. As the 2 Mercedes cars, I think now are going to start setting some proper lap times. So right now we've got Vettel fastest from Leclerc 2nd. And then in P3 is Lando Norris. P4 is Daniel Ricciardo, and then you got Max Verstappen in P5. Antonio Giovinazzi is currently P6, and then you got Carlos Sainz in P7, and then P8 is Kimi Räikkönen. Lewis Hamilton, I think, is about to go very quick, so we'll see what he does in just a moment. And then yeah, it's Gasly in 9th, Perez in 10th. let's just see where Lewis Hamilton goes before I update the rest of the order. As Hamilton now coming into the final part of the lap, he now comes up to the penultimate corner, a very long left-hand corner that definitely does take a lot of life out of the tyres. As Valtteri Bottas goes fastest on a 32.4, here comes Lewis Hamilton. He will surely go even faster. And no, he doesn't. He only goes P4, does Lewis Hamilton. And that's because he did a slight mistake at the second part of the chicane on the Mistral Straight. Locked up ever so slightly and ran wide. So Bottas is first. Then it is Sebastian Vettel in second. Third, as Lando Norris, by the way, on the hard compound tyre is really looking quick. He's just done the fastest middle sector. Where will Lando Norris go? Third. That's incredible. So third for Lando Norris on the hard compound tyre. That's the hardest compound for the weekend. That's incredible. As Verstappen was on a lap, he did the fastest first sector and now he's backed off. So disappointing there for him. So Leclerc is fourth. Hamilton is fifth. And then in sixth place, you've got the Iceman, Kimi Räikkönen. Seventh place is Pierre Gasly. And then I believe it is Daniel Ricciardo in eighth. And then ninth, I believe, is Antonio Giovinazzi, and then I think it's Perez in 10th, as we're seeing a replay of Max Verstappen there, getting a bit wide on the second part of the Mistral chicane. No, Giovinazzi's gone P7. There's also Albon. Alexander Albon has got up to P6. And then P7 is Giovinazzi. Here comes Ricciardo though. I'm sure he will go even faster. Here he comes. Daniel Ricciardo. No, he doesn't. He improves his lap time but doesn't improve his position. So it's Giovinazzi 7th. Raikkonen is 8th. And then 9th is Pierre Gasly. And then 10th is still Daniel Ricciardo. Here comes Charles Leclerc to the line, who goes 2nd. I'll update that in just a moment. So Ricciardo is 10th. Max Verstappen is currently in P11. And then it's Hülkenberg in P12. As now Sky annoyingly have gone to an ad break, so I won't know the exact times during the ad break. But it's Hülkenberg P12. Sainz is 13th. 14th is Sergio Perez. And then 15th is Lance Stroll. So Racing Point looking, well, as I thought they would be. Not that good. Kevin Magnussen, disappointingly P16. And then you've got Danny Kvyat in P17. Russell is P18. And then it is Kubica in 19th, and Grosjean is currently last. So that is your current order, except it's Leclerc second, of course, with Vettel third, and then it's Lando Norris in P4. So yeah, that's your current order in practice 2 with an hour and 5 minutes to go. By the way, hello to Dexter Hall. Great to see you here. Very good to see you here. Hopefully you're having a good Friday, and hopefully you're looking forward to the French Grand Prix this weekend. I'll come to you guys in the chat in just a moment. I just want to get a picture on screen of Sebastian Vettel waving at a Williams of, I think, Robert Kubica. Let me just get that on screen for you guys. And yep, here you go. Vettel, that was on his first run in practice 2, was not happy with the Williams, and I think had definitely a right to not be happy with how the Williams was with him. Yeah, there you go. By the way, if anyone's saying who's in what position, currently on Sky F1, we are on an ad break, so I don't know the exact order right now. As soon as we come back, I'll update any new positions when I can. So I'll make sure to do that as soon as the ad break finishes, which is probably going to be in about a minute or so. And I'll try, let me just see if there's any more pictures I can put on screen. Nope, not right now. So yeah, we'll just wait for them to come back from an ad break. I'll quickly read out some comments. Mark Greenhouse says, very impressive from the midfield. Yes, it is. Lando Norris, again, P4. Well, it says on my order. We'll have to see what it is when we come back. But he did that on the hardest compound of tyre. Either he is amazingly quick this weekend, or the harder compound tyres are working better than the softer compound, which I think is the case, by the way. I think as the weekend goes on, that will become very clear that the harder the compound, the better you are going to be. As we are moments away, I think, from coming back from the ad break. Yep, here we go. So let's see what the order is. Live from Paul Ricard as Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas are on, Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris, sorry, are on another laps. Here comes Lewis Hamilton to go fastest by 0.3 of a second. So let me quickly update that as Lando Norris comes to the line. Goes P4 again on the hard compound tyre. That is incredible from Lando Norris. Yeah, Bottas is second, and then Max Verstappen is currently in P3. Then it's Norris P4, and then Gasly P5 as Max Verstappen now is coming to the line. Where will Max Verstappen go? He stays in P3, 0.7 of a second down on Lewis Hamilton. Shows you how quick the Mercedes is. As Valtteri Bottas goes even faster, 0.25 of a second faster. The Mercedes are stunningly quick. They're almost, well, they pretty much are a second faster than anything else. And that's not exactly a surprise, is it? But yeah, so Gasly P5, Leclerc P6. And then Vettel is P7, as we're seeing a Renault of Daniel Ricciardo. I don't even know what they're showing there. Let me quickly just go back and see what the order is. So it's Ricciardo in P8, sorry. From P9, Alexander Albon. So Toro Rosso looking good. And then in P10 is Antonio Giovinazzi. And then P11 is Kimi Räikkönen. And I think the rest of the field is how it is anyway on the running order. So yep, that is the current live running order with an hour to go in practice 2. As the only cars on track right now are not Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, and Max Verstappen. But yeah, Lando Norris, very quick. I stress again, P4 on the hardest compound of tyre. Ahead of Gasly, Leclerc and Vettel, who are on the medium compound, which is the middle compound of tyre. As they're currently showing the stripes and what it means for the cars in terms of grip. Anyone know the lap record on this track? Asks Addiction. I don't know for sure what it is. So if anyone can tell him or tell us what it is, then that'd be, very much appreciated. But I don't know for sure. I think it's a 1:30 or 1:29, something like that. As Lewis Hamilton and Danny Kvyat are now back out on track in the Mercedes and Toro Rosso respectively. Jules, how did Norris already use 3 sets of tyres? Well, that is because he's used, I think, all of the hard compound tyre sets that he had. If that is the case. So I think that's probably why, if that is the case, that's probably what's happened. He's trying to get the hard compound of tyre out of the way, because even though, of course, the harder the compound you go on at this track this weekend will be very good for you, especially considering how hot it is, you want to preferably be on a tyre that is harder and more durable, but you don't want to be on too hard a compound that doesn't give you enough, say, lap time initially. So I think that's probably what they're thinking is that, let's get rid of the hard compound tyres quickly as we can. I'll quickly now post a picture of the man who is currently top of the timesheets, and that is, of course, Valtteri Bottas, who, by the way, absolutely, as Lewis Hamilton starts another flying lap in practice 2 on the medium compound tyre, Valtteri Bottas has to respond to Lewis Hamilton, not only this weekend, but next weekend in Austria, because if Hamilton beats Bottas in the next 2 races, then for me, the World Drivers' Championship battle is completely over. So Bottas has a lot of work to do, and here he is on screen, currently top on a 1:31.1, quarter of a second clear of Lewis Hamilton, who is currently on another flying lap. And he comes down into the chicane. The Mercedes looks... Oh, Lewis Hamilton getting the rear fully stepped out there in the middle of the Mistral chicane. Turned in, put his foot down probably too early for the car's liking, and the car almost spun around. That was amazing car control by Lewis Hamilton there. Great to see, of course, the drivers pushing to the absolute edge of performance. And I think now, yeah, he has, I think, backed off now, and I think he'll probably go for another lap. We'll have to see, though. As, by the way, Romain Grosjean is back out on track. And no, Lewis Hamilton comes back into the pit lane, presumably to get ready for his proper qualifying simulation run on the soft compound of tyre. Everyone so far, I think, except for Carlos Sainz, has done their run on either the medium or the hard. There's a replay of Lewis Hamilton losing the rear there, as yep, still seeing the replay of that. And also on Sky F1 we are seeing Paul di Resta talking to Mario Isola, I think his name is, about presumably the tyre situation right now, and also talking about tyres for 2020 and 2021. Of course, in 2021, the tyres are definitely going to play a big factor, and they are definitely going to be different. As Romain Grosjean now comes through the final corner to start, I think it should be his first proper run in practice 2, because he's currently last. But I don't think that was a proper run. I think that was just a few, say, installation laps. Not installation laps, but, not properly quick lap times. As here he comes on the soft compound tyre, down into turn 3 and 4, where he spun in qualifying last year and embarrassed himself. Pass, you have to say, not looking that great, to be honest. It looks like it's really struggling as well over the bumps. It looks very harsh over the bumps here in Paul Ricard, as Danny Kvyat, by the way, has gone up to P12. So let me quickly update that. So Kvyat P12, pushing a few drivers behind back, such as Hulkenberg, Sainz and Perez and Stroll and Magnussen. Let me quickly update that. So Perez 15th, and then it's Stroll 16th as Romain Grosjean continues his lap. He's coming to the end of his lap, so we'll see where he goes. Hopefully, he can actually put it, you know, somewhere near the top 10. By the way, hello to Crystal Racing, and also hello to Count Blah, who I've just seen join the chat as well. Hello to both of you. Great to see you both here, as always. Here comes Romain Grosjean through the final corner, and where will this put him? It will put him P18 only. That's embarrassing. Don't tell me Haas are that bad this weekend. Because that is, well, that's alarmingly slow. So Grosjean goes only from 20th to 18th on the soft compound tyre. I think it's only a theory for me right now, as yeah, he made a mistake kind of at turn 3. I think the reason people are not looking that good on the soft tyre is because this track is a lot harsher on tyres than other tracks, but also because it's so hot, I think the soft compound tyre is giving up at the end of the lap, and I think that's why they're struggling, because the cars look better on the harder compound of tyre, and there is no doubt whatsoever that Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull will be extremely keen to start on the hardest compound of tyre they can get away with, because the soft compound is absolutely not the tyre you want to be on. As here comes a Toro Rosso of Danny Kvyat, as by the way the 2 Alfa Romeos are now back out on circuit. As I think Kvyat, and yet Kvyat is on currently a qualifying simulation on the soft compound tyre, going for another run. And here he comes up now to the long left-hander, a corner that again does take life out the tyres a lot. And now puts it into the final corner, and Danny Kvyat, where will he go? He's currently P12. Kvyat goes P11. Just ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. So let me quickly, before Raikkonen does his soft tyre run, let me quickly update that order. So Kvyat P11, Raikkonen P12. As Alexander Albon is now out on track, if I can speak English, and also the 2 Alfa Romeos are. It looks as though Antonio Giovinazzi is about to start his soft tyre run. By the way, thank you to Count Blah, who says, "What's up, Chazza?" Well, everything's going good with me. Hopefully you as well. And says, "Keep up the good work as I listen at work, lol." Good to hear. And also Irvin Sezendorf, hopefully I've pronounced that right, mate, says, "Hi, Chaz. Hello to you." He says, "I'm glad I can listen to your commentary at work." Well, yeah, it's great that you can do that. Hopefully I'm keeping you as informed as I can. The current running order, if you can see it, but if you can only listen, is on the screen if you can watch. But if you're only listening, it's currently Bottas from Hamilton, Verstappen 3rd, then Norris, Gasly, Leclerc, Vettel, Ricciardo, Albon, Giovinazzi 10th, and then Kvyat, Raikkonen, Hülkenberg, Sainz, Perez, Stroll, Magnussen, Grosjean, Russell and Kubica. So there you go. So anyone who is only able to listen, that is the current running order, but it's all about to swap around because everyone is now coming out for that soft tyre run, as Antonio Giovinazzi is currently halfway through that. As he now comes up to the middle sector and is about 9/10 of a second down on Bottas at the moment. So Giovinazzi will probably go up to, say, P8 on this time, as Grosjean improves his time and goes 13th. Also, we've got so Valtteri Bottas has come out on track for an outlap. So has Hülkenberg, Stroll and Kubica. Giovinazzi running wide slightly there. He now comes up to the final corner. The Alpha still doesn't look that good, honestly, but the drivers, I think, are doing the best they can. And now Antonio Giovinazzi comes up to the line and goes, as I said, P8. A 1:32.9 as Daniel Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel are now on an outlap. So I'll keep the running order on screen as it is until everyone completes their soft tyre run, because it is going to swap around a lot in the next 10 minutes or so, as we have 50 minutes, that's 50 minutes to go in practice 2. And apparently Addiction says that's correct, Mark, and Paul Ricard is 130 flat. Yeah, I thought it was in that area. So yeah, the 130 flat. They're not that far away from it, as that Kimi. I think Kimi Raikkonen made a mistake at turn 3. Yeah, it is. Kimi Raikkonen, turn 3, tried to turn in, and as we've seen in the last couple of races, the Alfa Romeo doesn't have a rear end to speak of. So turned in, rear end said no, and he went straight on over the runoff. By the way, hello to Casey Doyle. Yeah, Paul Ricard 130 flat. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. And they aren't that far away from it already. They're only a second off. And they haven't gone on the soft compound tyre yet for that fastest run. So we could be at a 130 flat by the end of today. Shows you how quickly Formula 1 really moves forward when it comes to speed. As Nico Hülkenberg on the soft compound is now coming to the end of his lap. Renault definitely looking better than it was before, but not looking as competitive as it did in Canada, to be honest. But here comes Nico Hülkenberg to the long left-hand penultimate corner, as Valtteri Bottas is currently going about a tenth faster than his first time. As Hülkenberg comes to the line, and where will he go on the soft? He goes P10, I think, in the Renault. But annoyingly now, Martin Brundle there stood very, very close to the track. I hope he's not right next to the curb and that's not where the pit lane is. But I think he's very close to the track there. That looks really dangerous. But yeah, so Hülkenberg goes P10. Here comes Valtteri Bottas, who goes even faster. Not massively faster though, only about 0.2 of a second faster on the soft compound compared to the medium. Again, as I've been saying, the harder the compound of tyre, I think the better you are going to be this weekend. As Sebastian Vettel, I believe that is, runs wide on the exit of turn 6, I think, or turn 7. As Lance Stroll goes up, I think, to P15. Yep, he does. Goes up to P15. As Vettel just tried to carry as much speed as he could. But in a corner where front wing downforce is very important, he didn't have any to speak of. And yeah, the car just wouldn't turn in. And that really, Sebastian Vettel going off, that showcases why Ferrari don't have the pace at the moment to compete with Mercedes at this type of track. Because they don't have the front end downforce like Mercedes and even Red Bull do to be good at those points of a track. They may have the power, but they don't have the grip. But now here comes another Ferrari. Is that Charles Leclerc? Yes, it is. I don't know if he is on an outlap. He's not. This is the end of a lap. He comes to the line and goes up to P3. The Charles Leclerc P3. Again, if you're just tuning in, I'll update the order as soon as I can, but it's swapping around so much right now, there's no point doing it right now, because by the time I finish it, it'll be a different order. So I might as well wait until it all shakes out with 45 minutes to go in practice 2. Here comes Alexander Albon on the soft and goes P10. Nice lap there. By the way, though, the Mercedes is absolutely all dominant because they're 2 seconds clear of teams like Alfa and Renault and even Toro Rosso. So really does show you how good that car is. It's on another level at this type of circuit. Here's Grosjean locking up the inside front. Very weird way. That Haas to me looks unbelievably bad. It looks very, very stiff on the front end. especially under braking. Also, it looks very bumpy under braking. Here comes, though, Lewis Hamilton on the soft compound tyre. What can he do? Can he go even faster and lower the current time that is fastest of a 1:30.9? We don't know because Sky have gone to an ad break at probably the worst time possible. So we won't know what the or what Lewis Hamilton is going to do. So I'll come to you guys in the chat in just a moment. But let me just find, if I can, a different picture so I can put on screen for you guys. I'm going to try, if I can. Yeah, I've got a good picture here of the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. I'll put him on screen for you guys. And then I'll come to you guys in the chat for a couple of minutes, and then we'll get more so into practice 2 once Sky Sports F1 comes away from their advertisement. Go, Red Bull of Max Verstappen, who is looking all right so far. Red Bull not looking that great at the moment, but of course, practice 2 is not over yet, so plenty of time to improve, and also qualifying is where it all matters when it comes to one lap speed. But yeah, there you go, and I'll come to you guys now in the chat. By the way, just want to say, don't forget to subscribe, guys, if you are new to the channel, because this channel on this website this weekend is the only place you can catch watch-alongs for qualifying in the race at the 2019 French Grand Prix. So make sure to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my homepage, subscribe also, and also, very importantly, hit the notifications bell, and as well, don't forget to smash the like. And if you want notifications desperately for my videos and streams, then make sure to join the Discord server. That is the best place for notifications for my videos, and the link to that is down below in the description. Also, that's the hardcore Chaz HDF1 community. So if you want to be a part of that and get notifications, then make sure to do that as well. But let's take a look at some comments. Crystal Racing, is Norris using rocket fuel? Yeah, Lando so far in practice 2 and also practice 1 looking very, very quick. In practice 2 he was P7, and in not in practice 2, sorry, practice 1 he was P7, and today looking very, yeah, just very, very good. Very quick. Trotter says, no way they will overturn the penalty. Mercedes should sue them if they do. I don't think there'd really be a ground for that if Mercedes wanted to. I don't think there's really any ground for that, but at this point I don't really care if it gets overturned. Of course I'll let you guys know if it is, because it is news, but I don't really care. I've moved on. I think Ferrari should, and I think if it does get overturned, it'll make it even more of a farce, because Formula 1 races should not be decided one race after or in a Paris courtroom or at the FIA headquarters. They should be decided on the day at the track. End of story. So if there's an overturn of the penalty, it would honestly just make it even worse. And I think it would, as Lewis Hamilton from the replay, we come back from an ad break, spinning at turn 3, or half spinning, and hitting the bollard, going into 4. So Hamilton has blown his lap and will have to probably pit and go on to the soft compound of time, and hits the bollard there, and does, I think, damage his floor slightly. So that's not good for Hamilton. We saw this in Canada, of course. And the Red Bull there going off track because Hamilton was trying to get back on track, and I don't know if he pushed him off or distracted him. We'll have to see that again. But Hamilton there making not a critical error, but an error. As there is the bollard. As yet Hamilton has come back into the pits, as here comes Charles Leclerc to the line. And Charles Leclerc goes P3, but is still 6.5 tenths of a second slower than Valtteri Bottas. And I think now I'll update the order, or at least some of it. So it's Bottas, Hamilton, then Leclerc third, and then Vettel is fourth. And then you've got Max Verstappen in P5, with Lando Norris splitting the two Red Bulls. That's, well, that's embarrassing for Gasly for obvious reasons. And then Kimi Räikkönen P8, that's a bit better. And also Antonio Giovinazzi in P9. That's looking a lot better for Alpha, but I'm not going to say that they're going to be, you know, super competitive. As Grosjean goes straight on at the final corner. Haas are having a terrible weekend. They're currently 15th and 16th. But yeah, Alpha looking better, a lot better than I thought they would be. Ricciardo P10. Alexander Albon is in P11, and then you've got Hülkenberg in P12. So Renault looking, yeah, kind of similar to how they were in Catalonia. And I did also say that this track is very similar to that circuit. So there you go. As Gasly now goes P6, I'll update that in a moment. So Kvyat is 13th. And then it's Perez in 14th, 15th, Magnussen. I put one too many S's there. 16th is Romain Grosjean. Haas look awful. And then you've got Stroll 17th, and weirdly, Carlos Sainz is 18th. I don't know what is going wrong for Carlos, but he doesn't have any speed for some reason. And I'll quickly update Gasly in P6 ahead of Norris. In P7 as George Russell completes another lap on the soft compound and is still, of course, in P19. Here's a replay of Grosjean going straight at the final corner. And yet, locked up the inside front, and that Haas does look absolutely pathetic to drive. It looks absolutely terrible, and that picture right there, not on the screen of this stream, but on the Formula 1 coverage of Gunther Steiner, really does say it all. Haas looking dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. But now I will quickly post a picture of Lewis Hamilton spinning as Kevin Magnussen is on another lap on the soft. Here he comes to the line. And Magnussen improves very nicely up to P9. That's more like it. From K-Mag. And then here you go, guys. Here is that spin from Hamilton at turn 4. Or, you know, entry to 3 and then into 4. So Magnussen has, with 37 minutes to go, got up to P9. So let me quickly update that for you guys. We don't now have many cars on track, which is a bit disappointing, but I think the cars are now getting ready for that race simulation run, and it is vitally important today because, again, tyres this weekend with how hot it is are going to be very important. So that's a very important thing coming up very soon. Albon is P12. P13 is Hülkenberg, so Renault outside the top 10. But I think Ricciardo, by the way, hasn't done a proper soft tyre run. And then Kvyat P14. And 15th is Perez. Here comes Carlos Sainz to the line. Can he improve? Yes, he does, but not massively. Only goes 14th from 18th on the timesheets. So Sainz in 14th, and then Kvyat 15th, Perez 16th. So Alpha don't look like they have the slowest car. Or the slowest midfield car rather. It looks as though it is the Racing Point. So Perez is 16th, and then it's Grosjean in P17, and then 18th is Lance Stroll, and I think that is the current full order. So there you go. With 35 minutes remaining in practice 2. Crystal Racing saying, let me just pull it up. Crystal Racing saying Ferrari 2018 to 2019 FP3 champions. Absolutely. They are the best when it comes to showing pace in that type of session. They are absolutely the best at that. Right, let me find some more comments if I can, because I think, guys, the practice simulation, the qualifying simulation is now over, and I think it's now time for the race simulations. So the next 35 minutes is not going to be boring, but it won't be as exciting, of course, as when they're pushing as hard as they can to see how quick their car is. Now it's about seeing how the tyres are going to perform and whether you can eke the life out of them for race day, because that will be vitally important to find out. And also, the temperature right now at Paul Ricard is going to be about the same for race day. I think on race day it is actually going to be about 2 degrees hotter, but it's still, you know, in that ballpark as Carlos Sainz goes for another flying lap. Yeah, I'll start reading some comments out if I can. And as Carlos Sainz now comes through the middle, not the middle sector, the first sector. Mark Greenhouse says, you're right, I think F1 should move on like a bad smell now in regards to the Vettel penalty roll. Yeah, it's like, you know, yeah, it's very controversial. I of course made my video, plenty of people disagreed, and there was lots of debate and opinion. But that was 2 weeks ago. And at the end of the day, if Ferrari get that win back, is it going to make 2019 any less of a failure than it has been? No. 2019 has been a failure, no matter how you look at it. In 2019, Ferrari had to win the championship. Their championship bid ended after 4 races. So the decision, the appeal, when it comes to this penalty, doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, they may get the win back, but it's not going to make this season any better for Ferrari. And it's not going to be remembered as a great day for the team. It's going to be remembered as a farce for the sport. As Carlos Sainz, by the way, is coming up to the end of this lap. Let's see if he does improve. Hopefully for him he does. He comes to the line. And he does improve. Goes to P8. So McLaren, P7 and P8 again at the front of the midfield. The McLaren look as though they do have the best car in the midfield this weekend, which is great for them in their battle with Renault and also Toro Rosso and Racing Point in the Constructors. So Kimi Räikkönen is P9 and then P10. I believe I've seen a replay of Hamilton again earlier on. Of course, on the screen here on the stream, you can see it when he spun at turn 4. P10, I don't know who it is yet because we're not seeing the timing screen. Annoyingly, we're seeing a replay of an incident that, yep, we've already seen. We don't need to see it again. It's Kevin Magnussen. And then P11 is Antonio Giovinazzi again. Alpha looking good. P12, Daniel Ricciardo. And then P13 is Alexander Albon. P14 is Nico Hülkenberg. And then it's Kvyat, Perez, Grosjean, Stroll, Russell and Kubica. With 31 minutes to go in practice 2. Right, let's find some more comments, as I think, yeah, most teams now really should be doing their race sims. Right, let me find some more comments here. So Crystal Racing says 2019 was an unnecessary rule change. Just because fans moan on Twitter doesn't mean the FIA should pander and follow them. This is the thing. This is the ironic thing. If you had left the rules the same, then Mercedes and Ferrari would still be very competitive and very close at the top, like they were in 2018. But no, the FIA had to do what they did, and now Mercedes are clearly the best team in Formula 1. They were the best team anyway in 2018, but they didn't have the fastest car at every race, or for me, most races. And it was very close and competitive in terms of lap time. So, in hindsight, they should have left it as it is. And I would have left it as it is, because at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, Liberty Media came up with that new set of rules because the first race of 2018 was boring. That's why they came up with it. And then the 3 races after that were very exciting. And 2018 was a very exciting season. It was a very, very exciting season. Great racing, great battles. The championship battle wasn't great, but it was good for most of the season. But yeah, it was such a good season. There was no point coming up with a new set of regulations. And what I would have done is I would have left it as it was until 2021, because it was pointless coming up with a new front wing, new rear wing, and new, certain regulations in terms of where the barge boards have to be and stuff like that. It was pointless. It was honestly pointless, and I would have left it as it is. And I think Formula 1 would be in a better place if we left it as it is. But no, the FIA do what they normally do, and every 2 years they come up with a new set of regulations, because as Crystal Racing said, because fans on Twitter moan, and that's who apparently they listen to when they shouldn't, they do what they do. But they shouldn't come up with new regulations every 2 years. And I'm hoping, honestly, as Lando Norris, by the way, comes to the line on the soft compound tyre and goes P5. That's a great lap by Norris. What I was about to say is I hope after 2021... they leave the regulations alone for at least 4 years. Leave them alone until the mid-2020s, 2025. Leave them alone until then. Because if you make a new set for 2023, then it's just going to overcomplicate things and not improve things. Because coming up with new regulations every 2 years does not improve the sport. I think, a new set of regulations every 5 years is not too bad, because I think Formula 1 does need to be refreshed every so often. Once every 5 years, but not once every 2 years. Absolutely not. And to be honest, if Formula 1 had not done the 2017 regulation change, I think Formula 1 would be even better off, because in 2016, yes, Mercedes had the best car, but Ferrari and Red Bull were closing in on them. You cannot doubt that. And it was a lot easier to overtake in 2016 than it has been in 2017, 2018, or 2019. So, again, they need to stop making new regulations. Only make a new set of regulations that are big. Don't go for these small or smaller ones. Only go for big ones like the V6 hybrid rules, or 2021, or the 2009 regulations. Only go for those types. Not let's mess around with certain parts in the car that isn't going to make a difference. But there you go. Rant over, I think. Yeah, Norris up to P5, and then Verstappen, Sainz, Gasly P6, 7 and 8 respectively. As we've got 26.5 minutes to go in practice 2. Let me read, and actually let me just see if I can put a different picture on the screen for you guys before I get on to reading your comments, because there are quite a few interesting ones that I want to read out. And yeah, I've got a different one. Let me get it on screen. It's a Red Bull going off the track, or say off piste. As Valtteri Bottas on his race run, locking up his inside front going into the third to last corner. I don't know what the turn number is. I will know hopefully by tomorrow. I don't know the Paul Ricard circuit, let's say, as well as Canada. for obvious reasons. So there you go. That's the Red Bull going off track. As Daniel Ricciardo is now on a soft tyre run, but I don't think he's improving. No, he's not. So, not great for Ricciardo here. And no, he's not on a soft tyre qualifying run. He's on a race run. So, yeah, Ricciardo on a race run. But let me take a look at some of your comments to do with this. Mark Greenhouse says Chazzy is so right. Thank you for that. Nank Maiden, I think it is. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Says surely changing the regulations every 2 years disadvantages the bottom midfield teams who have less money too. It does, because you have to spend more money coming up with new types of parts. As Hulkenberg spinning off the track at the third to last corner, turns in, well, went way too wide on the entry to the corner, that's why. And the soft tyres, you can see, are absolutely dead on that Renault. But he does, because you have to spend a whole lot of new money on these new parts that they're going to be getting rid of anyway in 2 years' time. Because it looks as though in 2021 we're going to ground effect and the cars are going to be quite a bit different in 2021, also with the tyres and the power units, because we're going to have, I think, the return of KERS, but not in the same exact way. So it's like, what's the point? You might as well just allow the teams to save money for 2021 and keep it as it is, because these 2019 regulations were never going to massively change things up. They were never going to. It was always going to remain not exactly the same. There has been some differences, like McLaren have improved, Ferrari have dropped back compared to where they were, Toro Rosso have improved, Alpha kind of improved based on the early part of last year, Haas have dropped back, Renault have dropped back. So there are differences, but it's not for the betterment of racing. So if they just left it as it was, everything would have been fine. But no, because some fans on Twitter moan after the first race of the season in 2018 that the race wasn't exciting enough, we have to make sure that the new regulations for next year are massively different. When even Christian Horner said this, that the 2019 regulations were a waste of time because they had to spend a load more money on parts that weren't really going to be necessary in a few years' time when Formula One heads for another massive regulation change anyway. So really, really stupid, honestly. And if I was the boss of the FIA, I would have a new set of regulations once every 5 years. And it would be, every time it'd be a big new set of regulations. So with me, it would be, there'd be no 2010 or 2011 or 2012 regulation changes or 2017 or 2019 regulation changes. The only regulation changes I would have would be 2009, 2014, and then I would have probably brought forward the 2021 regulations to 2019, but have been planning for it, before 2017 when they were starting to come up with them. I would have started to plan for that in 2015 or something like that. But there you go. Let me look at some more comments. By the way, and yep, Prussia, I have just seen, I forgot to put an L on the end of Vettel. There you go. And the current order, by the way, isn't any different, as we're now 21.5 minutes away from practice over. Let me find some more comments in regards to that discussion. Jordi says, and Toto is right. The big teams will reach the cliff of development earlier, allowing small teams to catch up later. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, what you have to realize is that when you have a set of regulations, you can only develop to a certain point. You can't keep developing forever with the same regulations that you have. You can only, there's always a ceiling when it comes to regulations. For example, look at the, say, 2010 or 2009 to 2013 era when we had diffusers, you know, double diffusers, blown diffusers. By the time we got to 2013, there wasn't that much development going on. I mean, yeah, teams were improving their car during the season, but they couldn't really find any more speed from anywhere because the regulations have been around for so long. Most of the regulations have been around for so long, such as diffusers and blown diffusers and diffuser tech, that there was no real, you know, more development to be found. And by 2012 and 2013, even though Red Bull in 2013 did dominate, you cannot argue that the midfield was a lot closer to the top teams in 2013 because we had, what, Force Indias, Saubers up there competing with Mercedes and Ferrari at times. And that was because, and also in 2012, and that was because the regulations, mostly with the cars, had been around long enough so those teams could get to that level. And that's what you need to do. You need to allow the smaller teams to get to that level. They can't be expected to get to that level in 2 years, because if you have a new set of regulations every 2 years, what you're basically saying to the teams is, right, if you don't get it right in the first year, then basically in the second year, you might as well give up on that year's car and focus on the next set of regulations, when that's not what you should be promoting. And also, another point is, when it comes to new sets of regulations, is that for the newer fans, you've got to make it simpler for them in terms of the regulations, because, you know, let's say in football, I mean, we do have, say, new rules coming out, not massive new rules, the basic rules are still there, but if you kept it, say, mostly the same for a long enough time, then people would be able to understand better how the cars are. But because they keep bringing new, you know, completely new concepts and power units and all this stuff, it's hard for newer fans to follow, because every, you know, 2-3 years, Formula One is in a completely different place, and it doesn't feel like it's accessible, or it doesn't feel like it's at a level where the, you know, newer fans can understand. So I think, again, leaving the rules for 4 or 5 years would allow newer fans to come in and have enough time to understand the rules and understand, you know, what is and not allowed for these cars by the time we get to the next set of regulations. Crystal Racing says, and it is possibly true, if we were using 2016 regs, we might be having a 2012 season right now. Well, that's the thing. And by the way, I'm going to try in a minute and research about the Sebastian Vettel penalty situation to see if anything has happened when it comes to that. But that's the thing again. If you look at 2016, yes, Mercedes had the best car, but if you look at the gap between them and the rest of the teams, it was a lot smaller than it was in 2014. It was a lot smaller. You had Ferrari and Red Bull about, at best, a half a second off, which, again, was a lot closer than they were in 2014. Force India were about a second off, and that was not the case in 2014. Williams were dropping back, but they were still about, again, a second off. And then you had other teams like McLaren and Toro Rosso, who, as Sergio Perez there, damaging his front wing, I think, going over the exit curve of turn 2. Just caught that, and yet it's scraping now along the floor. But yeah, if they'd left, if they'd left that 2016 regulations and that time alone, and, you know, let those regulations through for 2017 and 2018 and even 2019, imagine how close it would be at the top between Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, and maybe a Force India, who of course now a Racing Point, and maybe a McLaren and a Williams, because Williams, no doubt, they were definitely going a lot better under those regulations compared to the 2017 regulations, where I think they dropped back because those cars required more reliance on aerodynamic grip, and Williams never had good aerodynamic grip between 2014 and 2016. But again, if they left it alone from 2016, everything would have been fine, but no. But no. By the way, hello to Aeron Dynamics. Let me try and find some more comments if I can. Let me just see. Jordi says, not sure for Ferrari about the pace in Austria. Sector 2 and Sector 3 do have long corners. Well, Sector 2, again, if you look at Sector 2 in Austria, it's still very reliant on power because you've got another DRS straight, then you have a slow braking zone, but then you have another straight, then a fast left-hander, and then that's the end of the middle sector. So that still suits Ferrari for me because it's 2 power zones and what, 2 slow or slower zones. So that still for me suits Ferrari. I think the final sector will be where Ferrari lose lap time in Austria for sure, but the first 2 sectors, Ferrari should be very, very quick for sure, but Mercedes I'm sure will be as well. But we now have, what, 14 minutes to go in practice 2. I'm currently just searching to see if there is any news to do with the Vettel penalty. Let me just quickly have a look. And no, I don't think there is any news at the moment. Just taking a quick look. And by the way, just to let you guys know, not only are Ferrari using a new front wing, they're also using a new floor in France today. So, new parts for Ferrari. Right, so yeah, I'm not seeing any news as it comes to whether the penalty is going to be overturned or not. So we'll have to wait till later on to see if there's any news about that. But Crystal Racing 5-place grid penalty for Hamilton. And yeah, I think Hamilton is being investigated after the session. If he is, then it is probably, yeah, because he didn't really force Verstappen off the track. I don't think he should really be investigated for that, to be honest. And it'd be ridiculous if he got a penalty for it. But there you go. As we've got the 2 Ferraris currently lapping on track on a medium compound tyre. Of course, on their race sim. The only car not on track, interestingly, is Lando Norris. I don't know why. I'll probably have a look in a moment, but I just want to put a different picture on screen for you guys of what's going on at the track today. And here he is. It's Valtteri Bottas, the man in P1. Can he, this weekend and in Austria next weekend, where we know Valtteri is very good, can he take the fight back to Lewis Hamilton in the World Drivers' Championship? Well, he absolutely has to, because if he doesn't, if Hamilton beats him this weekend and next weekend, I think Hamilton has his 6th world title completely wrapped up, because the gap is going to be near 50 points, and I don't think Hamilton can be beaten when he has that type of gap to the next driver, no matter who is competing against him. So these next 2 races are vital for Valtteri Bottas. If he wants to win a world championship, he has to beat Lewis Hamilton, for me, this weekend and in Austria. And if he does do that, then if Hamilton, say, is 2nd both times, then the gap goes down to what, 15 points? Possibly 13 if Valtteri does the fastest lap 2 times, but let's say 15 going into Silverstone. And then, yeah, that looks a lot more possible for Valtteri than it does look like now, and even if Hamilton wins the next 2 races. So yeah, these next 2 races, France and Austria, for Valtteri Bottas, critical for a world championship bid. that is really falling away. As we're currently seeing Charles Leclerc on track with 10.5 minutes remaining in practice 2. And I'm just looking now at the moment, and I think possibly Ferrari can go faster in terms of their 1-lap speed, because let me just quickly show you guys this. It is the speed traps from practice 2, and it has a not massively surprising person at the top, but more surprising so than other times. You can see there it's Valtteri Bottas by 4 kilometers per hour. That's a massive difference, and it's Raikkonen, of course, Ferrari power, then Mercedes power with Stroll, Ferrari power with Leclerc and Magnussen, then Ricciardo. Ricciardo, by the way, does have a new upgraded Renault power unit. He has a new ICE, so that is good news for Ricciardo if he can replicate that in the speed traps. And then, of course, Perez, Mercedes power, Vettel, Ferrari power, Hulkenberg, Renault power, still good considering he doesn't have the new ICE and won't have it till Austria. And then Kvyat in the Honda powered Toro Rosso. There you go. As we do now have 9 minutes remaining. I'll quickly come to the chat again to see what you guys are saying. Let me just see some comments here to see what people are saying. Let me just quickly show that from Seirugara. MGCN69 says Max ran wide. Max had to come off his racing line because Hamilton rejoined the track and therefore run wide. I mean, I'll try to see it again, but I don't think that's what happened. I think Hamilton went off, and I think Verstappen was kind of distracted from what Hamilton or where Hamilton was. I don't think, Hamilton forced him off the track. I don't believe that at all. I think Verstappen got distracted, was slightly offline and went off the circuit. I don't believe Lewis Hamilton can really be blamed for that. And it wasn't a dangerous situation. And Trotter says Hamilton did nothing wrong. If he gets a penalty, it's political. It would be certainly very, very controversial if that did happen. And I don't think it should. I don't think he did anything wrong. I mean, yeah, he just spun and was coming off the outside of the circuit, came back onto the circuit, but he couldn't really do anything else considering he just spun his car, and I don't think he knew if there was other cars around him, so I don't think Hamilton did anything wrong. As here is Daniel Ricciardo on the hard compound tyre. Is he going for a proper qualifying sim? I don't think he is, but we'll see. It does look pretty quick though from Ricciardo, so you never know, could be. Let's see what his first sector time is. And no, this is a race sim because he's already 1.8 down in the first sector. Right, let me read some more comments. A Pathia Sim, I think it is. Sorry for mispronouncing. It says, yo, what's up? Everything's good. Hopefully with you as well. Right, let me find some more comments here that I've missed. I want to make sure I get in as many as I can. Aerodynamics asks, is it true that Ferrari retested their aero package and found that it was 0.3 seconds slower than the testing earlier? Well, Mark Hughes, who's a very reputable, I've said that word wrong, but I don't care, journalist, has come out and said, I don't know if it's a theory or an actual story, but he has come out and said that Ferrari, he believes that have found an aero glitch on their car that was costing them a third of a second. Now, at certain circuits this season, that would have cost them, of course. In Shanghai, they were about 0.3 of a second off pole, I think. And of course, Baku as well. And kind of Canada, say with Charles Leclerc, but if you look at, say, Spain, Monaco, Australia, they're still, way down. So I don't think it... I mean, of course, if they can as Valtteri Bottas there locking up and running slightly wide. If they can recover that pace back that they might have lost, that'd be great for them because their chances of a race win would definitely increase quite a lot, but that isn't going to put them in a position to fight with Mercedes at every single Grand Prix. Because, I mean, look at the lap times so far after practice 2, with 5 minutes to go in practice 2, by the way. Valtteri Bottas is 6.5 tenths of a second clear of Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton, yes, he's only 2 tenths clear of Leclerc, but Hamilton, on his soft tyre run, spun off. So he can definitely go faster. And also, yes, Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel, I believe, did their fastest times on the medium, it said there. I'm not sure if that's exactly true, but if it is, then yeah, Ferrari, they're not too far off, but I don't think they're in a position to be going for pole position. I think it is really Mercedes' race to lose this weekend. I think Ferrari, the best they can hope for is a podium finish. And I think Ferrari, if I was Ferrari, my aim for this weekend would be 3rd in the race and a second row lockout. That's what Ferrari really do need to aim for, because I think that's the best they can get this weekend. As Norris completing another run on the soft compound tyre. Norris, his lap times are not too bad on the soft. They're looking good for McLaren. Looking very good for McLaren, who look like, what, a second to a second and a half closer to the top than they were this time last year. So McLaren clearly have made a lot of progress, and you have to say the team that has made the most progress in 2019 is McLaren. McLaren are absolutely moving forward in Formula 1 again. I'm not going to get too overhyped and say McLaren are going to be winning races soon, because they won't, but they're moving forward. They're making progress, and that's all we can hope for and all we can ask for. We don't ask that McLaren right now win races. We ask that you make progress and get more so back to that area. And this season has clearly been progress. And if they can build on that for 2020 with Andreas Seidel having next year his first full year as team principal, and James Key being able to design next year's McLaren, if they can progress again, then McLaren should be very strong next season in the midfield. Not at the top, I stress, in the midfield only. Yeah, we've got now, what, 3 minutes to go in practice 2. Let me just find some comments to end on. Crystal Racing says, I have no idea where to place Bottas within the driver hierarchy. For me, I would put Valtteri Bottas, say this season, I would put him as probably the 6th best driver on the grid. I think this, you have to remember, again, well, not so far this season, but I think based on talent and, you know, how they are right now in Formula 1, because you have to remember, of course, the differences between the cars. But I think Valtteri Bottas is currently the 6th best driver in Formula 1. He wasn't that for me last year. I thought last year he was probably the 7th best. I thought Kimi Raikkonen was better, but I think Bottas has moved ahead of Raikkonen when it comes to that. Still close, though, between the two. But I would still say that Hamilton, Verstappen, Vettel, Leclerc and Ricciardo are still better than Valtteri Bottas. Yes, Bottas has been good this season, but I think Vettel, Leclerc, Verstappen and Ricciardo, based on how they all are currently right now, based on this season, I think they would do better in that car. As we're seeing Carlos Sainz doing another race run, as we've got about a minute to go. And let me read some final comments here if I can. And by the way, when it comes to driver status, my top 3 drivers in Formula 1 are Hamilton, Verstappen and Vettel, in that order. I think Lewis Hamilton is clearly the best driver on the grid. Yes, by the way, I did make a video yesterday stating why why Max Verstappen has been the best driver of 2019 so far. And by the way, if you have not seen that video, it is in the description down below. Don't forget to go and watch that after the stream finishes. But I made sure in the title to put so far, because I do have to stress that for me, Lewis is still the best driver. And just because Max Verstappen, for me, has been better in the first 7 races of 2019 doesn't make him a better driver overall. If Max Verstappen can have a great, rest of the season and win a couple races, then maybe I might put Max as the best driver on the grid. But yeah, Hamilton still for me is the best driver. Max Verstappen has been the best driver so far this season, but you can't decide who's the best driver in Formula 1 over 7 races. It takes a lot longer to determine and dictate that, as the checkered flag has now flown and the session is now over. So let me quickly get the text in a different place. So FP2 is over. So there you go, guys. Practice 2 for the French Grand Prix. Round 8 of the 2019 Formula 1 World Championship has finished. And it has been not a crazy practice session. We've definitely had more interesting practice sessions this season. For example, Baku in Canada. But definitely a couple interesting talking points to talk about from this session. So I'll wait for the order to swing around. So the final finishing order of practice 2 is Valtteri Bottas fastest, from Lewis Hamilton second, third Charles Leclerc, fourth Sebastian Vettel. Great performance by Lando Norris in P5, Max Verstappen P6, Carlos Sainz P7, Gasly P8, McLaren looking very good, Raikkonen looking good as well, P9, Magnussen P10, Giovinazzi P11, so Alpha looking good. Ricciardo P12, I think he could definitely go faster though. Albon 13th, Hulkenberg 14th. Hulkenberg's not looking that great, to be honest. 15th is Kvyat. 16th is Perez. 17th is Grosjean, who looks terrible. 18th is Stroll. Then, of course, at the back are the 2 Williamses. So there you go. That is practice 2 for the French Grand Prix. And I'll quickly go through some talking points as we come to the end of this stream. And I think, well, it's pretty clear to see what the pecking order is. At the top, it's Mercedes with the best car, with Ferrari in second. Not miles away, but still not in a position to go for pole, in my opinion, tomorrow in qualifying. And then in third, I think Red Bull do have the third fastest car. I don't think McLaren are going to be there with Red Bull. It would be great if they were, but I don't think they will be. So I think Red Bull do have the third best car. And then it is McLaren, you have to say, fourth best in the midfield. And, well, fourth best in the whole field, but the best team in the midfield, you have to say, is McLaren. Great to see that. And they are definitely making progress in Formula 1. Fifth fastest. Looks as though it's either Alfa Romeo or Renault. I don't know who, though, I would go for right now. I think I'd probably go for Renault as the 5th fastest team. I think Ricciardo can definitely go faster than what he has done today. And then after that, yeah, I'd probably have to say Alfa. And then after that, 7th fastest, I'd have to go for Toro Rosso. Looking, as ever, pretty good. And then 8th fastest in the pecking order, I'd probably go for Haas. Their car, even though Magnussen is P10, their car looks dreadful. It has no grip whatsoever, especially on the softest compound of tyre. And if they do have to start the race on that compound on Sunday, they will not finish the points at all. No chance of finishing the points if they do that. And then, yeah, the slowest team in the midfield, you have to say, is Racing Point. They don't have a quick car right now. I think things can improve for qualifying, but realistically, I think Racing Point will be at the very back of the midfield, but the very back of the entire field, of course, is Williams. George Russell, I'm just seeing on the lap times, is not an absolute mile Well, he is a bit of a mile away from the Racing Points. He's about a second and a half, but that wasn't as big as it was a few races ago. So Russell looking good there for Williams. But guys, that is now it for practice 2 here at Paul Ricard. I just want to say thank you to you guys coming along and being part of the stream as always. And there you go. So yeah, thank you guys for coming along for the practice 2 watch along for the 2019 French Grand Prix. Just to let you guys know, I will be live tomorrow at 1 PM UK time for the qualifying watch along for the 2019 French Grand Prix. That is the only place you can catch a watch along on this website for the French Grand Prix qualifying session. So make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the notifications bell for that video or / stream coming up tomorrow on the channel. Also, don't forget to smash a like on this video as well if you do want to see more content like this and also see this content continue over the next year or so. And also, don't forget to comment down below what you thought of this video and comment down below what did you think of what we talked about in this watch along, and also what did you think of the results in practice 2? Any surprises for you, or do you think it's going exactly how you thought it would after practice 2 here in France? Also, don't forget to join our Discord server, link below in the description. That is the best place for notifications of my videos, and also it is the best place for communication within, say, the hardcore Chazza HDF1 community. So if you want to be a part of that community, make sure to join the Discord, link below in the description. Also, follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110 and check out my website chazzahd.com for more content like this. And also, don't forget to check out my latest video that I uploaded yesterday about Max Verstappen and why for me so far in 2019 he has been the best driver on the grid. But guys, until qualifying tomorrow live at 1 PM UK time for the 2019 French Grand Prix, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.